Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. My name is Sonia Siddiqui, and joining us today is Wanzi Silva from RBC. Hi, Wanzi.
Hi, Sonia. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for coming back. So, everyone, if you don't know Wanzi, she's done a couple of webinars with us through RBC, and they've always been very well delivered. So, we're excited about this one today as well. But before we get her to start talking about being future ready, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear us. And please note that you are all on listen only mode, so we won't be able to hear you, but Wanzi will be running a Q&A session after her presentation. So please hold your questions towards the end. And for your questions, please type them into the Q&A tab and not the chat, preferably, because we will be looking at the Q&A tab once Wanzi's ready to take questions. And for best results, please use a laptop or a desktop computer using Google Chrome as your browser. And your feedback is always important to us. After this webinar, you will be led to a survey page. Please do fill out the survey and let us know how we did and how we can make our future webinars better. As for the recording, you will get a recording of this webinar in a few hours after the webinar. As long as you have registered for it, you will receive a recording link. You can watch it again, or you can share it with your network. Just to tell you a little bit about ACCESS, we've been around for over 30 years helping job seekers such as yourselves. In the past year alone, we were able to serve over 34,000 job seekers. We work with over 2,200 employers, which includes our sponsors such as RBC that sponsor some of our programs and webinars. They do 2 webinars a month with us. And always exciting things that they bring to us. They also host hiring events as well. And one of our a few of our bridging programs are also sponsored by our RBC, which are included in the 30 tailored programs that we have. And we've got 7 locations in the GTA. And RBC is also has a newcomer center at our Markham location, and so it's a combined ACCESS and RBC location over there as well. And but currently we are serving everybody online, so everything is virtual at the moment. So our location is our online location right now. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Wanzi. Wanzi, you can take it away.
Thanks, Sonia. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction and great to be back. I think it's my 5th webinar that I'm doing with ACCESS Employment. And yes, a big shout out to ACCESS Employment because myself being a recent newcomer, I've been in the country for about 3 years. And when I landed to Canada the first time, I had the support of great mentors and consultants at ACCESS Employment. And of course, I've had experience with the Financial Services Connections program as well to make you ready for future employment. So great to be partnering with ACCESS Employment once again. And just a little bit about myself. My name is Wanzi Silva. I am a banking advisor at RBC Meeting Place and a future launch champion. So very proud to bring forward this presentation for you today, being future ready. So moving on, next slide, Sonia. I'll talk a little bit about what Future Launch is. In fact, we've changed what Future Launch is given the pandemic, how things have gone virtual. We do focus on 4 pillars for youth based in Canada. I'm sure a lot of you are either not arrived yet, looking at coming into Canada, or some of you are already here. So RBC has invested $500 million for the next 10 years to support our youth. And we are currently focusing on 4 major pillars, which is building skills, networking, gaining work experience, and of course, something very, very important, the mental well-being. So if you check out RBC Future Launch, you can already see the website details on the screen. Do make a note of it. All these resources are free. If you are an RBC client, non-RBC client, it doesn't matter. These resources are available for all of you. And just to talk a little bit in terms of certain resources like gaining experience, I know if you are a person looking at entering into the finance industry, the banking industry, there is a certification by University of McGill about personal financial essential in Canada, and it is given free. I mean, RBC has sponsored it through McGill University, and you can complete that certification and maybe even put it in your resume as well. So these are some of the great resources we have for you, so do check us out. Now, before we move on to the next slide, I'm not sure if you can see the chat option. We will be using Slido today. I have a few Q&As and a little quiz so that you guys can participate as well. So please do type www.slido.com on your mobile devices or your laptop, and the code is future launch. So I'll just, I already have it on the chat, but I'll just put it on if you guys can see it now. Okay, so I'll just give it like a minute basically, or maybe a couple of seconds for you to go through it. And maybe if you're already there, I will try sending a question to see if you are already here. Let's say, hi everyone. So I'm just using Slido and I'm using the Q&A option. So you can also type hi or something like that so that I can see that you guys are active on Slido. Awesome. I can see everyone saying hi now. So I'll wait a few seconds. And this is what's great, guys, because everything has gone so virtual right now. Even if you're going through an interview, making connections, we have to leverage different digital platforms. Like, for example, I'm using one laptop and then I'm using Slido on the other side. And you guys are also actively participating with me right now through Slido, which is awesome, right? Multitasking at the same time. And that's what we're going to talk about as well. Okay, so moving on this particular slide that you see, we had this wonderful event yesterday, and of course the recording is available on YouTube as well as Future Ready. Do check us out. It's about an event that we hosted with industry experts and young athletes talking about their journey, how they succeeded, some of the obstacles they went through, and so on and so forth. So apart from conducting workshops like this, we do invite industry experts to share their journey and some young entrepreneurs to talk about, you know, they're sometimes 18, you'll be surprised, sometimes 20 or 26. They've started up their own virtual business or any other way. So you have to hear from experts and network with them so that you have an idea what you want to be in the future as well. So next slide, Sonia. Okay, so why am I here today and what will we cover? So as I said, RBC is committed to empowering Canadian youth for the jobs of tomorrow. And how is getting a job different from now than it was before? What are some of the opportunities and challenges and what can be done and what do we do at RBC to support you for that? This is what we're going to cover throughout the slide today. Now, remember, things have changed so much. During the time that I was in college and university, what I wanted to be then versus what I am now has completely, changed, and it is different. And you might want to, know what did I do differently? And even being a new immigrant to the country, how did I land with my first job, just landing and, getting employed at a bank 3 months after landing? What did I do differently? So I'll talk about it a little bit more. Moving on. So yes, what did I do? Sonia, we can go to the next slide as well. So how did I get here? Exactly the point that I was talking about. I came with a 4-page long resume thinking, and I came from Sri Lanka. So back home, if you have 1 page or 2 pages talking about your credentials and your experience wasn't enough. So we had to write as much as possible, even on a resume. But when I came in here, I unlearned certain things. I learned new things as well. A resume should be to the point, what a job description asks. And of course, you have to highlight some of the exceptional things that you have done as well. So I know, in an elevator speech or an introduction, some people would say, my name is so and so, I work for this organization, and I previously worked for the other organization, and this is what I did, and, moving on and on and on. But honestly, it's about summarizing it and making yourself memorable. So some of the things that I did as a new immigrant as well, or even now, perhaps we in our space at RBC Newcomer Meeting Place, everybody is welcome. So we have clients or people who are new immigrants, people who are Canadians who wants to enter into the job market. So I was like one of them, a new immigrant who had just come, didn't know what to do, and I got the help of my colleagues that time. Um, and of course, places like ACCESS who helped me to shorten my resume, and of course, networking. We'll talk a little bit about networking as well. I did a lot of networking, and that really, because guys, we do not have a network in Canada when we come as new immigrants, correct? So how do we make that connection? How do we meet the right people? Do we always reach out to recruiters, or do we connect with influencers perhaps? So I leveraged LinkedIn a lot, which is a professional platform. I attended events, job fairs, hiring information sessions, and really mark your place. Even if it's a virtual interview, or for me, of course, it was in person, make sure you dress professionally, have that wonderful smile on you, and just be authentic and talk about why you are special. So I know we are not discussing about elevator's pitch or that 30-second introduction, but I will give my introduction and then move on to the next slide, because this will definitely help you guys in terms of, crisping your conversation as well. So when I was first, looking for employment, when I'm meeting people, let's say I'm meeting somebody of influence, I would say, hi, my name is Wanzi Silva. I'm an award-winning banking professional with extensive experience in investments and credit. As my expertise, I love leading with advice, and I'm digitally very savvy. And I love working in teams because that gives me the opportunity to help each other and learn from each other as well. I hold a master's degree from University of Cardiff, and I really look forward for this conversation today about this banking advisor role, because I am looking at entering the banking industry. So in 30 seconds, you just highlighted your experience, your education qualification, and yes, you mentioned, hey, I'm an award-winning banking professional. And these are some of the key features. The key features I mentioned is actually in the job description as well. So tweak your conversation, be it, perhaps you will be connecting with me on LinkedIn after today's session. Make sure when you're sending that connection request, personalize that invite by saying, hey, Wanzi, connected with you virtually through the ACCESS event today. This is what I am, and this is the kind of help that I want from you. So that makes you memorable. And of course, you'll be on my message on my inbox, so that whenever I am doing an event, or RBC is doing an event, or hiring information session, I know which person needs what. If you just send a connection request, and perhaps we might accept it, might not, we don't know you, right? So the best way of doing it is to personalize an invite. Okay, so let's take a look at Slido as well in a little bit about this. So what's going on with the job market right now? The world of work is changing so fast, right? It already doesn't look the same as what it was before. Some of the ways I used to think about my work and career, maybe your parents too at that time, could be a bit outdated right now. So what we will do is let's take a look at Slido now and take the first quiz. Okay, so turn to your Slido and let me go here a little bit. So I've just activated the poll. Okay, and it's going to be a tiny quiz. So what percentage of jobs are filled through networking? What do you think? So go ahead and use a Slido. Okay, I can see some answers coming in. Perfect. I think all of you are getting it right because I talked about networking a little bit as well. Okay, so some of you are saying it's about 50%. Some of you, or I would say majority of you, are saying it's about 85%, right? Yeah, let's just give it a couple of seconds for that. And yes, while you're answering, I would, just like I said, networking makes a big difference, is because a lot of the employment opportunities are sometimes not even published on the websites, right? It's about connecting with those people who are already in the industry, who is able to tell you about the existing opportunities. Now, I see some folks wants to know about the Slido feature. I'm just going to type it again on the chat option. So it's www.slido.com. And the event code is future launch. That's the, okay. I hope all of you can join. That's fine, at least for the next one. So 87% of you said, whoever who joined the Slido, and thank you so much for joining it, that 85% of networking is how people get employed. And I agree with you on that, because right now, I think the percentage has increased as well, given the circumstance being virtual. I'll share a classic example with you guys as well. RBC was hosting advice center or call center interviews so far. The first interview round, or you get a questionnaire and then you get a telephone interview with a recruiter for about 15 minutes. And then you will be called for an orientation or maybe kind of a group interview session. Given the pandemic situation, things have changed virtually so much that the first interview is actually a chat interview, just like how I'm chatting with you through the WebEx today, right? It's a 15 minutes chat option, right? So just imagine, I know we use short language, wrong grammar, slang as chat through WhatsApp or any other social media, but I think it's time that we use correct grammar vocabulary as well, because this is how interviews are evolving as well, or have already evolved. So keep an eye on that, and make sure, even if you're connecting with someone through Facebook or LinkedIn or through email, try to have a one-to-one conversation as much as possible thereafter. Just don't make that connection and forget them. Make sure that you are becoming memorable by just connecting with them, or maybe if that person is writing a post, or if you're writing a post, tag them, right? Give a shout out. Once in a while, send a message asking how they're doing. Of course, don't professionally, I would say, stalk the person, but have that professional relationship as well. Next slide, Sonia. Yep. So what does this remind you guys? This actually talks about YouTube. This talks about Instagram. And you folks are very much familiar about this. YouTube has created an entirely new career path. You could make money just by recording yourself doing stuff, videos, games, makeup, working out, you name it. So people just literally don't go to university or college sometimes, but use these platforms to make money as well. Now it's become a way of life with personalities, building personal brands and using social media to make money. but you can also permanently damage your personal brand if you give the wrong impression. I know we've talked about this through our personal branding workshop as well, where we think that recruiters, you just agreed with me, 85% of recruiters, or 85% of people networking gets employed. At the same time, do you think that employers only look at your LinkedIn profile? It's a big no-no. They'll be looking at other social media platforms as well when they're making that hiring decision. I'll activate a poll in a little bit for you to kind of guess what is the percentage of employers actually looking at recruiting you prior to giving that offer letter, right? So let's turn to the poll. Let's do a quiz to see what you think of it. So what percentage of employers currently evaluate a candidate's social media presence before they make any final hiring decisions? So go ahead, guys. The poll is open, right? So you can go ahead and vote for it. And I will tell you some examples while you are voting as well. And these are real-time examples. We have seen candidates who have gone through the final interview being selected, but when the employer or the recruiter goes through their social media platforms, sometimes the resume has talked about one thing, and then you go on the LinkedIn, it's an IT professional, but you're looking at applying for a customer services role, and you've entirely changed your resume, and the integrity piece is lost. Now remember, for organizations like RBC, and especially the banking industry, integrity is a big key thing. In fact, it's one of our biggest pillars as a bank as well. So if you are not disclosing things correctly, you might fall into trouble as well. And I would recommend you never to say some false information. It's all right. You can be switching industries. Just be bold about it, be open about it. We've seen so many people being in merchandising or hospitality, and leveraging certain soft skills and applying for banking roles. For example, my manager Neelam Advani, who moved from Hong Kong, she was a merchandising senior management professional from where she came from, but she leveraged her soft skills, her leadership skills, and applied for a banking role. So yes, if you're switching industries, it's fine, but don't give the wrong impression on social media. Apart from that, it's okay to have fun, post those pictures on Facebook, Instagram, but if you go for an interview and you didn't have a good experience, don't just go and write about the experience to the public. I hope you guys won't do that, because that's not going to look good on you. That will show how you instantly react to a situation as well. All right, so thanks again for using the Slido. Now, this, I would say, majority, about 48% of you said that it's 60% that the employers look at you or your profile or social media before hiring you. And 36% of you said it's 70%. And the correct answer is actually 70%. Okay, so it's definitely more than what you just agreed. It's a lot. And I would say these statistics were from 2017, but given the circumstance, again, I'm sure the percentage has increased, because the only way we can connect you with right now is virtual. Even the final interview is virtual. Perhaps your training will be virtual as well through WebEx, right? And permanently, you might be working from home. For example, RBC as an organization, we have about 80,000 employees across the world. When we started, there were only 7,000 odd employees working from home. But given the pandemic, when it started, end of February or beginning of March, about 80% of our employees now are working from home. So that's how, as a bank, how we have evolved as well. And then, of course, you have to remember this is how your current roles or your future roles will look like as well. Next slide, Sonia. Okay, there you go. So you might get a job that doesn't even exist yet. And I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me on this because we don't know what roles will be there for us, or by the time you guys are out of college, if you're in college already, or in universities. And I'll share an example just about myself as well. When I was doing my high school back home, I did biology. And then as my first degree, I did human resources. And then I ended up doing my master's in business management because I was interested in getting into banking. So imagine when I started, or when I was in school, I was thinking, hey, I'll go on the science field, and then completely made that switch when I was actually exploring opportunities. So given the current situation, it is like that for a lot of you, and of course, maybe your children, your sisters and brothers as well. Because about 65% of elementary school students today will work in new types of jobs. Yes, we are going through university, college sometimes, or getting trained with thinking that we will get this desired job, but end up doing something else. And on top of all of this, your skills will prepare you for that job. Now, you might ask me the question, hey, Wanzi, you're saying that, and I will talk about it, that a lot of technology will replace jobs as well. So will the human aspect be lost? So I want you to actually look at the Humans Wanted report. I'll just type it on the chat option as well. And this is on our RBC Future Launch website, where it talks about, as much as there is technological evolving that's happening rapidly, why it is so important to have that human skill required. For example, because I was a person in the banking industry before, that gave me a chance to enter the banking industry. You might think like that. But at the same time, why am I not a traditional banker who sits at the branch or does virtual appointments versus now also doing presentations and training? Is because I have leveraged those skills that I learned through my human resources course or whatever in my previous role, and that can be incorporated into this role. And our role as advisors have changed so much. I would tell you, I've worked 5 months working from home. And at that time, for us as well, we learned new apps, virtual advice experiences, WebExes, remote ID verification tools in like weeks, right? Not even weeks, I would say sometimes days. So if you are not agile, if you're not somebody who is able to take that change up, you will be going one step or a couple of steps behind, right? So I know you are tech savvy. At the same time, make sure that you are actually improving your digital literacy as well as creative thinking. Moving on, Sonia. Yep, like I said, so automation is changing skills needed in the workplace, right? So as it says, 1 in 4 jobs will be affected in the next 10 years. And that's a large number, right? So once again, if the robots are replacing what we are doing right now, for example, I will tell you some law firms are now using programs that can scan thousands of documents for information instead of lawyers spending time doing it themselves, right? So can you think of any examples? So let's turn to the Slido now. I want to hear from you guys, right? So think of any examples of how automation will impact our other jobs in the future. What do you think? I've opened up the poll for you guys, so please go ahead and just type in your answers. I mean, I gave you just an example of professionals who are being replaced. And even if you think of application tracking system or the ATS that the banks or any other top organizations use to screen resumes, for example, correct? So people used to sit down. There were a couple of people going through the resumes. A long time ago, people used to hand over resumes to places or even the branches sometimes, right? And then we used to send it to HR. But even at RBC, we always encourage candidates to apply online now because everything is being screened robotically, right? So that's how technology is evolving. Awesome. So I'm getting some great answers here. Yes, insurance underwriters have been replaced by AI. Chatbots replacing customer care, at least partially, 100%, right? Awesome. I'm getting like a bunch of answers. I'll just read a few. So job locations and human resources, AI tools and technique will delete most of the analyst jobs. ATMs replacing tellers, track record based consumer loan approval replacing humans. Yes, ATM actually means automated teller machine. Yes. Guys, you guys are amazing. I know you we cannot have a conversation, but you are actively participating, and I'm very grateful for that because it keeps me going as well. I feel that you guys are engaged throughout the presentation. Yes, I agree. Somebody said human touch is lost as a result of automation. Yeah. Invoice and expense processing, fraud analysis. As much as some of the automations have become, I would say it's good. At the same time, now you might fear, okay, how are we going to be ready for this situation? We are studying so hard. Can we even leverage our skills or the education that we have now to apply for new roles, right? It's a scary situation. I'm just gonna close the Slido because we have to move on. Thank you so much, guys, for using the poll again. So yeah, I can see somebody said they can affect future application by greatly limiting the requirement for human influence. Correct, correct. I agree with you with that as well. So yes, this is how things have changed so far, and I'm sure there is a lot more changing as well. So moving on, Sonia. So this is definitely the burning question. Does this mean we all will be replaced by robots, guys, right? Is this what will happen in the future? Isn't this a scary situation? Now, no, if anything, it actually frees up time, even for those lawyers I was talking about, to focus on other ways to become better. Imagine how this applies to school, right? If you can find research faster, you can spend more time actually thinking about a topic and learning, right? We can spend time doing human activities like critical thinking and creative thinking. In my own role, I was at one time there was a workshop on design thinking that I participated, and I would say that really changed my life. Even I used to apply design thinking for day-to-day activities, right? So maybe you're doing human resources, maybe you're an engineering professional or IT professional. Do think out of the box, right? Do not just focus on what you're doing and okay, that's it. I am an IT professional. This is all I do. Versus, I'll give you an example. So before I logged in, I had a Slido issue on my computer. So when I reached out to the advice center, the person who spoke to me, who is an IT expert on troubleshooting, really understood that, it's urgent. And I, as much as I wanted that person to fix the issue, the technical issue, I loved having that 30 or 20-second conversation with that person because that person said, hey, Wanzi, how are you doing? Don't worry, I'm going to look into it. This is how you do it. Next time, this is how you do it. So this is what it is. So that conversation made me feel comfortable, right? So yes, if you are a technical savvy person or tech savvy person, or you're only focused on a polytechnic or in one particular area, think of other ways. Maybe now improve your presentation skills, maybe improve your people skills. Another personal experience, when I was doing my master's along with my spouse, I was telling him, and he was in a very senior role that time in a bank as well. I told him that, hey, you know what? For me, I have to learn from the master's degree, the content that they teach. But for you, you're actually applying it on your day-to-day role. So for you, you have to improve your presentation skills. Take the chance when the group presentations are on, when individual presentations are on, to improve yourself as that extrovert person, correct? So exactly, guys, think different. Maybe you're doing one course, right? Maybe you're learning about one aspect, but at the same time, think differently. Those are the skills, or those are the things that will make you different in any organization. We've hired people at RBC who has never had experience, who has had gaps in employment for a couple of years, homemakers, right? Like I gave you the example, who's never been in the banking industry. Sometimes you might think, hey, if I don't have experience, I have no way of getting into that particular industry. No, it's really about those human skills, right? It's about, you know, do you have that critical thinking or problem solving ability, right? It's not only about the technical skills. So if you're thinking, I want to be this person and I don't have this experience, can I ever be that person? Yes, you can. Just go through the job description, network with people, and see if you have that right skill and attitude to get into that role. Okay, so moving on, Sonia. Right, exactly. So, what skills should we have? First of all, what is a skill and how is it different from, experience? So, skills are things you learn and develop in any job, right? And through personal experience, such as being a member of a sports team or a club, right? So, you always develop new skills, taking advantage of skills you have. For example, you might be in college, you've never had experience, and now you want to enter the work, getting work experience. So, what will you talk at an interview, for example? You will talk about how you led a project or an assignment in your college or university, and what role you played, what responsibilities you took. Or let's say, for example, you've handled your a store or a restaurant on your own because your colleague fell sick, right? So that will show your problem solving skills and ability to thrive in a fast paced environment, right? So these are things that you will talk even if you don't have experience. I would say become a skills collector, right? You are in a virtual world now. As much as you want to be technologically savvy or digitally savvy, you want to show them. It's the way you demonstrate. Even for a client, let's say a client coming in, old age, or maybe somebody who is not tech savvy, it's not about saying, hey, we have a wonderful RBC mobile app. It's about, as an advisor or a customer services representative, demonstrating to the client with empathy, right? It's not about saying, we have this, look at this, right? So these are things that will come in handy when you are applying for a job role. Sometimes it's about the conversation, even with a recruiter, a connector, or influencer. I was having this conversation with a student yesterday who was just out of school, out of university. We were doing some banking, but 40 minutes, it was about, like, we had a 45 minutes appointment. Almost 40 minutes was about him asking me questions, right? Remember, guys, networking or connecting with people should be a two-way conversation, right? You have to make it. Why am I using Slido now and getting your involvement? I just don't want to do a one-way presentation, right? Just for the thing to be recorded. We want involvement, right? So even we've heard from our recruiters that when you're explaining yourself, or if you're saying something, make it brief, make it short, make it to the point, Let the other person acknowledge, right? Give it some breather in between, right? So focus on these things as well. Next slide, Sonia. Now, we talked about digital literacy skills. Now, in short, what you got to remember is digital literacy doesn't mean that everybody will be writing code or building apps, but everyone will need to understand and be able to use. For example, I mean, we don't need to know how a phone or our mobile device is being built and what's inside it. But of course, we would want to know how to navigate on the screens, right? So that's what digital literacy means. Yeah, moving on. Exactly. So, like I said, human skills are the hot skills required now. Okay. What is making ourselves different, or what can't machines do? I wish there was a Slido on this, but actually, it is about how we have more creative thinking. For example, let's say you are driving a car, right? So, if we move on to the next slide, Sonia. Imagine if you were driving a car and then if it was robotic, right? If we were driving and if we are encountering an accident, and there is, let's say, a human being or animal walking across, we would know how to, turn the wheel and then, avoid a situation. Will a robot be able to do that, right? So a simple thing like that. Same way, just like I explained about having sophisticated digital applications being created by large organizations. However, if people are not there to, demonstrate it with empathy, show how it works, nothing is like things are not going to go anywhere, right? So imagine it's not just having, that banking app or, having that digital literacy. It's about how you are showcasing yourself as well. On the same line, I would just like to let you know, when we started virtual interviews through WebExes, a lot of people, even on their hiring, their final interviews, they were actually wearing sweatshirts. Okay. And our recruiters would always say, hey, you know what? We are dressed professionally as if, we want to have that professional setting, but you are not serious about, the situation. So that can be something negative. Don't think that things are cool and, you're working from home and you don't have to groom. No, make sure that you are in a blazer, or maybe you're in a suit, or maybe a dress shirt, your hair neatly combed, right? Prepared as if you're meeting that person face to face. So moving on, if we actually recap, your future job might not exist yet. Remember that, right? And we talked about automation in changing the skills needed in the workplace. And of course, the human skills are the hot skills, right? Now, imagine myself being a new immigrant, and there are 80,000 of employees at RBC, right? But our leaders or mentors or managers spotted something exceptional in individuals who are being selected to that particular location, the newcomer meeting place, for example. Likewise, it is about you. Even in a team, how are you working together? How are you coming up with creative ways of, helping your colleagues or your clients, right? That's the difference. When we are hiring a customer services professional, the recruiters are not looking at somebody who will do customer services and just that's it. No, we are looking at people who can transition into a banking advisor role, a financial advisor role, who can move into the advice center, or who can take up a leadership role in the future. So remember, it's yes, you are talking to the role at the interview or for that moment, but actually what's important is how you showcase yourself to say that I am someone who can do beyond this, right? So make sure you leverage. So that's why I wanted to recap and highlight the last line of human skills are the hot skills. As much as automation is there, do not worry. we are still needed. And we at RBC and RBC Future Launch are there to help you, with updating new resources, experiences from people, and other skill development workshops where you can develop yourself as well. So moving on. Yep, 2.4 million more jobs will be created in the next 4 years. So it's not like there won't be jobs. There will be jobs that we don't know right now, but it is about you, your authentic self, that can make a difference as well, right? Moving on, Sonia. I'd like to actually, rush through the next slide just because I want to keep some time for the question and answers as well. But I'd like you to actually take a look at your Slido now and let me know, okay, what skills are you familiar with? If you can write that on your Slido. Yep, languages, absolutely. That's a skill, I would say. Certain positions clearly say bilingual. Means in Canada, it's French and English, right? So it's very important. Financial analysis, couldn't agree more. A lot of roles, even data analysts or certain other roles have wanted these communication skills, database management, interpersonal skills, design thinking, agreed. Yes, resilience, perfect. Awesome answers. Computer soft skills, correct. Even just to share on the computer soft skills and about digital literacy once again is we have certain advisors or certain employees who've been in the bank for a long time, but they haven't used technology as much. But for them as well, it's a time to learn and move on if they want to evolve in their role. So when things happened in a fast pace due to pandemic, we did help each other, of course, right? Because the way we grasp things can be different to people who've not used computers as much, for example, or new technology, right? So I make sure as much as are you somebody who is humble, who will not talk about me, myself, and I, but it's all about others as well. So yes, I've got about 30 answers here. And yes, problem solving, communication skills, critical thinking, project management, negotiation skills. Yep, wonderful, wonderful answers there as well. Okay, so I'll open up another question on the same slide that's on the screen, right? About careers, that it's not a straight line, right? It's a decision and it's a lifetime decision. So have you ever been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Yes, I'm sure a lot of people have been asked that question, at least from our parents and relations. And right now, the answer is 100%. It's a yes from all of you. So just to quickly move on to the next slide, I'll just stop the poll here. Yep. So remember, education is important and it's lifelong. Like I was saying, even in our roles right now, we learn about design thinking, about improving presentation skills. Sometimes it's about other aspects. If it's career related, maybe I've done, financial planning. So it'll never end. It just should go on. Moving on, Sonia. And yes, of course, remember, guys, university is not the only option. Everybody doesn't have to do a degree or a master's, in order to transition into certain roles. Explore polytechnics, explore technical colleges, look at programs that gives you the ability to put theory into practice as well. Just don't focus on academics only, right? So moving on. Yeah, so basically they give you the great opportunity to gain, relevant experience and build those all human skills, like we just talked about, communication, teamwork, and critical thinking as well. So that's what a lot of these colleges and internships, apprenticeships would do. Moving on, Sonia. And 100% reflect on your learning. Like I said, I gave you a classic example of my own self, how I, did biology from my high school, did human resources and then business management and so on and so forth. But yes, I learned, or I put those skills that I learned from my human resources and training degree into the roles that I was in stockbrokering or banking and investments thereafter, right? So do reflect on your learning. Just don't think it's a book and that's it. Just make sure that you leverage those skills as well. Yep, moving on, Sonia. Okay, so yes, you might. This is the recap of what we were talking about your future job might not even exist yet, about automation, how it's changing and it's needed in the workplace, right? And of course, about lifelong learning. What I want you to do now is, Sonia, maybe we can take a look at the Q&A, or if we, let me see if we have on my slide, if we have the, yeah, I think we can skip the rest of the slide and keep this time for the Q&A. If you want to read some questions, I'll be happy to answer as well.
Thank you so much, Wanzi. I am okay. So no one has really put in questions into the Q&A tab right now. So everyone, please, I urge you to type your questions into the Q&A tab, and let's wait for everyone to put questions there. I am just
Absolutely, guys. And there is no right and wrong answer, right? So you can ask any question. Maybe you're someone who has not reached Canada yet. Maybe you're looking at coming into Canada in the next few months, or you're already here and you're exploring job opportunities. So whatever questions that I have, whatever questions you have, you can type it in the Q&A option on the WebEx, so that Sonia and I can see it without using the Slido. Slido we can get into later on. We can move on with the Q&A option on the chat on the WebEx.
all right. So what was the name of the program at McGill?
Perfect. So it's called the Personal Financial Essential Program. And to find the link, it's really easy. If you go to the RBC Future Launch website, it's there. So what I will do is let me actually pull out the Future Launch website and then put it on the chat for you guys. If there are other questions, Sonia, you can go ahead.
Another question is not having social media presence, for example, like Facebook or Twitter, is that bad for people when they're applying for jobs?
Good question, right? I would say that it's actually going to, I mean, it's not Facebook and Twitter. I'm not on Facebook as well, right? So I'm on LinkedIn though. So it really depends on the kind of role you want to apply for. And given the circumstance, things are virtual. So you're not able to meet people in person, like I was saying. If you are, I mean, I wouldn't think too much about Facebook or Twitter versus LinkedIn. If you have the opportunity where you can create a LinkedIn profile, put up that wonderful professional picture summarizing your skills and experience, that gives you a better chance in terms of employment as well. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Oops, I am okay. Everyone, please keep your questions nice and short so we can go through as many as possible. I am going to take the shorter questions first. And if you give me a second here. Okay. Are there any entry-level positions? So for any positions at RBC, I recommend going to the RBC careers page, as they will all be over there as well. So whatever position you're looking for, go to the RBC careers page and you can see whatever is available right now.
Mm-hmm.
And can you,
That's
do you
true.
know how long the McGill program is for?
It's there ongoing, Sonia. So anybody can do it at their own pace. Some people I know there are a couple of modules on that. So some people would do it like in a week versus some people would do it in a month, depending on how they're reacting towards it or depending on the time they have, right? Whenever you have a moment, Sonia, if you can open the chat option, I can quickly put that link as well, just for the participants.
Yep, I will stop sharing 1 second.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Here you go, guys. So I'm just going to share the RBC future launch site for you here.
Okay, so what do you think the issue is when people are applying for positions but they're not hearing back? Like, what should they be doing to their resume to be able to get a call back?
That's a really great question, Sonia. Like I was saying, it's about highlighting those key facts about you. For example, if you're applying for a customer services role or an advisory role, for example, yes, you will talk about some of the features. Yes, you have to highlight if the job is asking you, are you a good team player? Do you have exceptional customer service? Are you digitally literate? All those questions should be answered. But at the same time, if you can highlight your achievements and exception in an exceptional way. For example, achieved an XYZ target with a percentage of 120%, for example, or awarded multiple times for exceptional customer services in year 2017, 18, 19, whatever. So it's not about filling the resume with wonderful words like I have great communication skills, multitasking skills, or whatever that we talked about. Actually, those skills that we talked about is for you to really, it's for you to improve yourself, right? When you're highlighting it in your resume, make sure you write about your own individual achievements as well, apart from the job description requirements.
Thank you. Next question here is, let's say like people are, I mean, this is not that big of a deal, but someone's concerned about their age. They say, I'm 40, what are the chances of me finding a job?
Right.
That's a
So
prime age.
it is. Again, that's very true. Age is just a number. Whoever asked that question, Sonia, we have colleagues who have, joined recently. We have people who are just 22, 24 onto the same role. And at the same time, people who are in those ages that you talked about as well. So age is not a number. It is just a number, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question is, look at the shorter questions first so we can get through. Do you have any tips to find jobs? Like, are there a lot of bilingual positions available at RBC?
Bilingual positions, if you're actually looking at roles in Montreal, in the region of, Ottawa or Quebec, you will see a lot of those bilingual positions. But do look up other organizations as well, not only RBC, right? There are a lot of bilingual positions available. And now that things have got virtual as well, you don't really need to worry because those you perhaps have to work from home, right? So it doesn't really matter where you are located geographically. Like you don't necessarily have to go to Quebec or Montreal at the moment. You can work from home if you have those linguistic skills.
Thank you. And how long does it take for a position at RBC to be filled?
Okay, So it really depends on the requirement, and that's a tricky. I would say it's not a tricky question, but it depends on the market's requirement. For example, how we do it in terms of branch banking, for example, is the training cohorts. Let's say some cohort starts in April, and we will start the hiring process in December, for example, because and you might think, hey, if I go through an interview in December, will I be, recruited the next month itself? So it's not how it goes. We prepare, we pre-screen, we keep those candidates ready, and then we will hire them for the cohort. But for certain urgent roles, for technical roles, or for advice center roles, those can be really fast, as less, maybe like a month. Sometimes the notice period varies from 2 weeks to 1 month. So again, it depends on the role that you're applying. That's how the process will be expedited.
Thank you. And if somebody applies to a job at RBC, do you recommend that the applicant immediately follows up with RBC regarding the position or the application?
Okay, so that's a good question once again, I would say, because give about 2 weeks for the recruiter. Now, if you get a questionnaire, there is no email address or a contact information of a recruiter that you can write to. But if you are already in contact with a recruiter, give it about 2 weeks after your interview to follow up with that person. Yes, like for example, I know even for my own hiring process, it took a few months because, like I said, the organization or whatever, it depends on the training cohorts or the requirement of the branch or that department, right? And they don't just hire a person and let that person just sit and wait. They have to go through that training session as they're hired. So follow up in about 2 weeks, and then depending on the answer, if they say it's not currently available, or if they will let you know or whatever, just again follow up in about a month or so, and that's fine.
Thank you. I have another question. Yeah, so sometimes there's job postings, and then the posting says that a preferred candidate has already been identified. Then why is the ad still on?
Okay, I think that's something that we should let you guys know as well. You'll be surprised. The applications, or let's say the job opening, is there for 1 month usually. Let's say we are publishing something today, and it's open. The deadline is 31st of December, from 1st of December to 31st. Trust me, the moment the job posting is open for RBC, we get about 1,000 applications a day. So let's say, the recruiters are limiting 3,000 applications, for example. The position gets filled up in 3 days after advertising, Sonia. So we don't really close it immediately. We leave it open because there are candidates who would apply, and in a few days we draw the applications as well. So if we take the job posting off, sometimes it's not giving the opportunity for the others to apply. Correct? So again, my tip for you is, whenever you see a job posting or whenever you want to apply for an organization that interests you, put some job alerts, and as soon as you see the alert, make sure try your best to apply the same day or the very next day before the posting is actually closed. You see it's open, and most of you will wait. What we've seen is people apply at the last moment, versus if you can apply the same day or the very next day that the posting is up and running, will give you an advantage.
Thank you. And is it should people be waiting for a response for every job that they apply to? Is that something that is custom? Is that what happens?
I didn't quite catch you on that. If you can.
I've applied for a job, should I be expecting a response?
Okay, so you have applied for a job. Yes, you should be expecting for it. I would say follow up, very important. And this happened to me as well. I had done my questionnaire, I had done my phone interview, and I
No,
actually did.
just an application, like you've sent a resume.
Oh, okay. So you've sent in a resume, and again, it's automated right now, Sonia, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if the job, let's say if you apply for RBC, what we see is within 20 days, if the application status is not changing, that means it's a no-go. It's not going to go through.
Okay.
So just forget about it and apply for another role.
Right. Perfect. So it's not like they're 100% getting a response just because they applied.
Exactly, exactly. Like I said, there are thousands of applications, and if you don't see the status of your application being changed within, let's say, for example, 20 days, that means either that position is being taken off or it's already filled. So you can move on and start applying to the next role.
Can you apply for the same position twice?
You can apply for the same position twice, but I don't recommend you do that because through experience, what we hear from our hiring managers is, and I hope it's not like there are two scenarios, Sonia. So if you apply for a role and you're withdrawing that application because you thought that the resume wasn't good, okay, it's going to block you from applying back to the same role, saying that you've already applied.
Right.
So that is loss of opportunity. So when you're uploading a resume for a position, make sure it's good to go. Number two, let's say you're applying for a customer services role. You see 3 roles at a particular website or at RBC. You can apply for all 3 roles at the same time. It doesn't matter.
Right. Okay. And can a job posting sorry, where did I? Oh, okay. So can a position be closed before the deadline?
Yep, like I said, the deadline means nothing sometimes
Okay.
if the applications are being filled in a couple of days, right? So
Yeah.
that gives an opportunity for the recruiters also to close the deadline or close that job posting earlier. So don't be an early bird is my tip for you.
Awesome. And are there chances of getting a job if you don't provide references?
Of course, just by statistics, up to last year, about 40% of people being employed, and that's a huge percentage as well, came through referrals at RBC. So
No, sorry, if you don't have references, like if they ask you for a reference to provide a reference for an interview,
yes,
and you don't have any to provide, would you
yes,
still be considered for a job?
they would. What I was trying to tell was, Sonia, like through stats, about 40% of the hiring has gone through referrals. So that means there's still 60% of people who never had a referral before, correct? Who have got employed at RBC. So it's not mandatory. Yes, it can give you a higher chance, but also it doesn't guarantee of getting employment just because you have a reference as well.
Okay, so Wanzi, the question is, when you apply for a position and before they call you for an interview, or when they call you for an interview, they ask you to provide references from previous employers.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important, Sonia.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, I was talking about referrals.
Yeah.
And then references is different. Now, references is mandatory for banking roles. I would say all top 5 banks will be doing reference checks, right? So you need to have references, and you don't need to put it on your resume at all. It's at the time that the offer letter is given to you, and we will be asking you, or even prior to giving you the offer letter, once everything is finalized, we will be asking you for your previous employer details and references.
Perfect, thank you. And once you've applied for a job, so just sent in a resume, should you call the hiring manager and tell them that you've applied for the job?
Nope, never do that. And that's a good question that will clarify a lot of doubts as well for the others. Wait for the hiring manager. Do not call them. Sometimes people ask us, is it all right? I see that the hiring manager is so and so. And then they reach out to the hiring manager on LinkedIn or through somebody else. It's not considered a professional right now, right? It's all right to, send an email after the conversation or the interview, thanking that person and maybe following up, just like I said. And it depends, again, it depends. Like with RBC, it's not a best practice, I would say, right? But with other employers, depending on the roles, it could be. So I can only speak for RBC, and calling the hiring manager wouldn't be a good thing to follow up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Wanzi. That's all the time we're going to do for questions. Do you want to
Okay.
talk about this survey or?
Yes, Sonia, I know. Guys, thank you so much. Once again, we were talking about being future ready and how automation is going to change certain roles. But be confident. We, as a responsible bank, a relationship bank as well, have provided so much resources for you guys to be ready for the future as well. So if you can kindly, take a quick survey. I'm just gonna open the survey for you guys as well on Slido. Thank you for toggling between, one app to the other as well. Just take a quick second. It's just one question about, how you guys feel about today's session and the answers that you got. It'll be, really appreciative if you take some time. Anything else from you, Sonia?
Yeah, so before we finish off, I'm just going to go over what's going on at ACCES. So this was in our last webinar of August. If you are looking to attend more webinars, our next webinar is on September 10th. Ask Me Anything, talking about an immigrant's perspective on working in the Canadian technology industry. So basically, you will be answering questions, live questions, so a big Q&A session. And if you want to obviously sign up for webinars, just like you sign up for this one, go to accessemployment.ca/online event series. And all of our programs, as I mentioned, are currently being held online. So I think it's a great opportunity for people who are outside of the GTA and would have found it hard to commute every day to come into one of our locations. You can do it from the comfort of your own home now. So you can start your job search, do the bridging programs from home as well. And you can check out eAccess, so eaccess.accessemployment.org. It's our e-resource center. It's filling up all the time. We've got tons of different, we've got previous webinars. We've got a section for previous RBC webinars as well. And we've got a lot of different resources for you to take a look at as well. And if you want to practice your English conversation skills, you can join our Talk English Cafe. We have doubled up on our sessions due to popular demand. So sign up at accessemployment.ca/talk English Cafe. And if you'd like to book an appointment with one of our employment consultants to help get started with your job search, just call your closest ACCES location and someone can start helping you as soon as you've registered. And for people who are still overseas, if you belong to any of these sectors, and you have your PRs and you're moving to Canada soon, email cec@accessemployment.ca and they'll see if you're eligible and they can start helping you with your job search before your arrival in Canada. And again, thank you for your participation. There will be a survey at the end of the webinar. Please don't forget to fill it out. And to find out what's happening at ACCES, follow us on our social media. We are very much active on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And thank you very, very much, Wanzi. It was so great to have you back. And thank you for answering questions and staying back to answer questions as well.
For sure, Sonia. It was great to be here. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to quickly let you guys know, I know a lot of you have sent connection requests on LinkedIn as well. So stay connected, guys. You might, need help before coming into Canada if you're already here about, or any question is welcome in our space at RBC Meeting Place as well. Best place to connect with me is through LinkedIn. Once again, my name is Wanzi Silva. So it's easy to find me as well, and hope to connect with you virtually very soon.
Thank you so much. And everyone, you will get a recording in a couple of hours, so watch out for that. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Sonia. Take care. Bye, guys.